Of the project and the request, there's a whole lot of more details obviously involved in it, and I'm sure you're going to be interested in, well, how's the store going to operate? How are we going to deal with the multiple issues we think about with 7-Eleven being a 24/7 store in the city and urban environment in particular? And so we've got operations here to answer those questions. With respect to the patio, how it's going to work, the dimensions, how we're going to make sure that we continue to have circulation on the sidewalk. Heat's going to be your best bet for that. And then Bree can speak to the initiative behind the store a little bit more from a real estate perspective and why we think this is such a good location. Just so folks can orient, this is the former Capital Cities liquor store at the corner of 5th and K, across from, catty corner from where Busboys and Poets used to be. Just to kind of orient where this is, it'll be on the ground floor at that corner.
Wait, are you sure it's down a little further?
The entrance seems to be under Epic and the corner is Capital City.
Capital City
So
is out.
is the whole thing, I know, are you taking over the whole area is what
Well,
you're
no, because
saying?
there's a liquor store that's coming into the Capitol.
Benjamin
Correct.
painting
I thought it was
company
a paint
was.
store you taking over.
There is a liquor store apparently coming in
Right.
in that same building.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what you're
Right.
picturing there is the old Duron paints, the old
Right.
paint store. Yes.
Yeah, there's the paint
This used
store.
to be a
Paint
liquor
store.
store.
I've lived here since 2006, that used to be a paint store.
That might be true, but before this, it was a
Okay,
liquor store.
but
Yeah.
for the last 13 years, it's been
Benjamin.
Alright, let's not all get caught up in the semantics, let's,
It's not the corner.
yeah, it's not the corner, we know where it's going,
Okay,
let's just,
got it.
we'll progress.
Okay.
I think we all know where the location.
Yeah.
So that's what you're trying to make
Yeah,
sure.
we're good, go ahead.
So that's, I'm gonna turn it over to these folks for questions, and we're here to answer questions. I'm sure there's a lot. Yeah.
Oh, Paige, you wanna go first?
Sure, I mean, I don't mind. My name's Thais Austin, and as I just shouted out, I've lived on that block since 2006, so we've seen a lot of changes. You know, welcome to the neighborhood. I hope this concept's super successful, because it's very meaningful to us that we have success on that block. What I wanted to talk about is that particular block is a real hot spot. It has been since I've lived there. I even have pictures of men running after us aggressively. There's a particular group that has hung out there since 2006, since I moved in. Since they're not there right now because the liquor store is closed, but apparently we're gonna have one again. And when no one's around, they say vile sexual things to the women. I expect they'll be back. So I guess with this public space, my question is, how is a person paid a 7-Eleven clerk's salary gonna be expected to police that area, make sure that it is maintained, that it doesn't become, I mean, we even have problems at the City Vista Safeway Starbucks, which is indoors. So how do we not repeat that whole situation, especially with it being open 24 hours? And I expect that you'll also have alcohol there, there's gonna be alcohol next door. I promise you, we're gonna have, well, because you said there's a liquor store going in, right?
That, a liquor store is a separate business.
I know, but it's gonna be next door,
They'll
it's
be
the whole
sitting.
block,
They'll be
that's
sitting there.
Yeah, just to answer that question.
But now you have seats outside.
We don't have any plans for alcohol.
Okay, so my point, everyone, is it works together. And and as a hotspot, that, for instance, that circle, that's where they hung out. That's where they launched their little attacks on us and surrounded, I mean, as I said, I even have photos and video of that, because that's what I would use when I called the police when that happened. So I guess my question is, if you're gonna have a patio, how is that gonna be maintained as a clean, safe space for the neighborhood?
Well, for one thing that we talked about would be shutting down the patio around 11, like the rest of the
They
other
hang out
PB.
during the day mostly.
Okay. Well,
I don't, if we need it, we will do what we did in other locations and provide security
Okay.
if needed. But most likely with the new look, fresh, open, and clean, a new design, usually that deters again,
We have a Starbucks problem right now.
we will provide what is needed to protect and
How many
prevent.
people gonna work there? One or
Usually,
gone?
now we can't have in this location one employee only. It's impossible.
you're gonna have-
With providing made to basically order food, there is no way we can afford to have only
You're
one.
gonna have cameras all over?
We will have cameras all over.
Mhm, absolutely.
When
Absolutely.
that shooting comes up.
We will.
We don't typically have exterior cameras on our stores like this, but that is something we can easily provide if, you know, needed. I can certainly make sure that happens.
I do want to just address one thing from Thais, because I think, you know, Thais, this is a problem that I've heard many times, and this is something that we discussed. Last week when we had that group come in,
Yeah,
it's gonna be.
sorry, couldn't make that one.
Yeah, they came in, and this is gonna be a very different establishment than City Liquors was. These are the same group that's coming over from I Street, and they want to create
Oh, well,
a,
I Street's a great neighbor.
yeah, well, they
Yeah.
want to create like a high-end liquor store with rare kind of liquors and wines to get. And we specifically talked about, you know, not selling single
Well, yeah,
beers
that's
or
not
any.
good.
Yeah, so I think you will see a change, at least in maybe some of the behavior, because, you know, they won't be getting their alcohol from that location. Yeah, Alan.
I assume you're gonna accept cash?
Yes.
Yes, of course.
What are you gonna do to try and prevent you from coming to 4 AM piggy bank when somebody's on drugs there and decides they need money, because you have a cash register open at 4 AM?
I do not get robbed at 4 AM with the cash that you have there.
Yeah,
We usually, our policy is to not have more than $30 at night, and that's a strict policy.
That's when they use card to
And
open the door.
during the day is only $50. That way, there is minimum of probably not. When they tried once and they see that's what we have, they don't come back again.
If you're
Because
walking
they
past
fail.
them, that's the only takes once, I mean.
And just one thing to let you know, this store will be run corporately. It's not a franchise
That's the
location.
thing.
It's corporate, so.
That's the reason.
Wait, could you, yeah, I don't mean, I know we kind of launched into questions. Is there more to, like, kind of the operation, what we're looking at, the vendors that'll be inside, the kind of stuff that you'll be selling?
There's-
How it separates itself a little more? Is there more information you wanted to share with us on that front?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we're gonna have a Laredo Taco, which sells like, taco type things, which is totally new for us. It's very different. They have one in Texas, at the store that they call the Lab Store. It's the first one of this kind, and we're gonna do it here. And we're really excited about that. We also have, different salsas. We have an ice cream station, with self-serve, and with I think there was 15 different toppings. So there's a lot of new things in here. We also have the things that, everybody has loved in the past, like our hot dogs and things like that. So, and Slurpees, but, so we are doing a lot of new things here.
One of the things we filed an objection to was the footprint of outside, because and that's not unique to you. I mean,
Right.
I've had to butt heads with a lot of the people on the street, kind of expanding and pushing pedestrians out further. Has there been any changes to your footprint?
Yeah, so from the patio out here, we showed the seating, taking the entire area from the building to the tree pits and the landscape area, and we're gonna maintain an 8-foot wide sidewalk along. I think everyone, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think everyone wanted it along the back of the landscaping, not up against the building.
Yes.
So we'll keep the seating up near the building and put the 8-foot wide open area on the landscape roadside.
Mhm. That's great. Have you been in discussions with DDOT and the Public Space Committee about these plans?
We have, and that's one of the things they were looking forward as well.
Okay, all right. Just before we jump back in, does the commission have any concerns? I know this is a pretty hot button issue the last couple of meetings, so Mr. Padre?
So, welcome. I have a 7-Eleven, a corporate owned store in my single district at Simonton, Rhode Island, and I have to say that in the 20 years that I've been a commissioner, it has been the #1 worst neighbor to the community. I would say that there has not been a more obstinate and uncooperative institution than 7-Eleven in my jurisdiction. And hopefully, that's a unique set of circumstances, but unfortunately, the negative impacts on the community have been manifold. Number one, and I won't go into great detail, but there were a series of nuisances associated with the 7-Eleven, public payphones, ATMs, et cetera, that took years to resolve because you fought us tooth and nail. And, but we prevailed, and all those payphones disappeared. But the biggest issue has been how you manage your trash. There's a large dumpster that is not well protected and maintained, that contributes significantly to a rat problem on the block. It's on the alley. 7-Eleven pizza containers and Slurpee cups, etc., abound, throughout the neighborhood. They're the number one type of trash that our Clean and Safe team picks up. We've actually documented this. So it gives me great pause that you're suggesting that you'd actually have outdoor seating associated with this store that would potentially even exacerbate the kind of conditions that we have a few blocks away at 7th and Rhode Island. So I'd love to hear your reaction to that.
First, I just moved in. I started with 7-Eleven about 1991. And what you're really gonna see is not the typical 7-Eleven that our fathers have basically got used to seeing. This is gonna be a completely different new look. We have conducted studies to get similar feedbacks from customers for 4 months, and we're changing the way we run the operations from a customer service perspective, from also holding franchisees and corporate accountable for keeping and maintaining much better image, and we are going to stand besides that and protect 7-Eleven with that image. We're gonna make sure that's not gonna happen. And I'm sorry, I just took over DC. I'm really not familiar with every store, and I guarantee you, I work in PG County, made a difference there, and I'm committed to making a difference here as well.
I've been on K Street for 30 years, and that's a really hot spot. We're setting up a living room for all kind of confusion. We have a lot of rats in the city, down in the area, and we have a lot of crime. We have a lot of shelter, homeless shelters in the area, which a lot of them do not stay in the shelters because we deal with a lot of mental illness in the community. What can y'all do to prevent all that? Because you're setting up shop, a nice living room for them to sit and lay in.
Well, we certainly don't want that either. I mean, we do not want this. We do hear this at other places, and, we're doing everything we can to try to prevent that. I mean, we can come back with our asset protection guy who can go into length about all the things that we're doing as a corporate company to prevent all this, but we don't want it either. I mean, we do not want people hanging out here. We don't want people attacking women. We don't want that.
You have to set up a lot of security.
Yeah, we absolutely, hearing these concerns, we absolutely will make sure we have cameras. We have some other things we can talk about internally, see what we can do here.
And we're working with the health department, our quality assurance department as well, to also protect the stores and prevent the rats problems as well from our stores.
And there's a lot of eyes on this project inside the company, very high up. So, we're really trying to do a good thing here for you guys in the community.
What's the minimum number of people that's gonna be working in the store?
At least 2 people.
At least 2.
No, that's besides the area where the food is gonna be made to order, that will have 2 other people. That's the minimum. And it's 24 hours plus the store manager and assistant manager. There's no way with this type of operations you will see that 1 or 2 employees in the entire store. It's not gonna work for us.
So let me ask you a question. So if all hell breaks loose with this patio and bad things happen, will you simply just take the tables and chairs away? Because I was told that's what happened on 8th Street in Southeast. Is that correct?
We didn't have stores before that.
There was a store on
I'm not-
Capitol Hill where the tables and chairs were taken away.
I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with that
I'm not
location.
familiar with
That came from Charles Allen's office when they were talking to me about it. I mean, so that, would you consider that? If all this happens and whatever,
I think it might be something that we would consider if, you know, we tried, you know, a whole bunch of other things and then we just couldn't solve the problem, you know, work with the local police department, whatever we need to do to fix the problem.
And we have a similar store that we opened, and there was a lot of concerns in Texas as well. We can get you even pictures of how it ended up with the communities being very happy with the outcome, and they didn't expect it to be that well-maintained, and it is maintained.
Which city in Texas was
I'm trying to remember because I was just
it? Was it
there.
Austin or Dallas?
It's in Dallas.
It's Dallas,
It's
Irving.
Dallas.
We shoot it there, so
It's supposed to be in Houston.
No,
We're
it's
in
in
Dallas, we're actually in Irving, we just moved from Dallas to Irving.
So she brought
Yeah,
up a really good
Rosin.
point about taking up the seats, and I don't know if anyone's here representing Mount Vernon Triangle, I will. Kenyatta and those guys. Part of, and thank you for so much that you've done for this neighborhood, Thais, I don't know if you guys know her, but she single-handedly turned this neighborhood around. But what the Mount Vernon Triangle folks had to end up doing was taking up all of our park benches and seats. And as much as we hate that we can't go out there and sit and chill, it is safer and there's less homeless people loitering. So you bring up a really good point, and I think that should be probably the top of your list if there's an issue.
What happens on the block next door on
Can I
K
ask
Street?
questions?
I know there's some tables and chairs there, do they leave them out at night or do they take them in?
What location?
They take them in.
They take them in.
On the south side of K Street?
South side, okay.
Yeah, I think those are tables and chairs owned by the SID, and they take those
They
in.
manage it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so who's gonna manage that, if they have to take them in at night, and the trash? Where's your trash?
Operations will be managing the trash. This site will have dumpster in the alley, but it also has an internal trash room in the basement that will be able to store trash. And then one thing that we had discussed is possibly chaining up maybe the tables and chairs at night.
People can still sit in that position.
Can I ask a question?
I'm good with that.
Yes. Mr. Pedro asked you a question about the garbage, and would you kind enough to put it in your in a piece of paper and sign it? If it's not working and we're protesting, you're gonna remove the table. And my personal question is the following: is you gonna deliver it 24/7 midnight? Because busboy said poet who was under my window delivered 4 in the morning until I called the police so many times they stopped delivering 4 in the morning. So when is gonna be a delivery time? Between 7 a.m., which legally you're allowed to do it, or 4 in the morning, the car arrives early and just sit there and wait until 7
she's talking about
a.m. to
resupplying
shows
the
up.
store.
Yeah, I know.
What is the restrictions in here? We will follow whatever guidelines it is, and we have done that in
And
many
what do you do
other.
if the guy shows up 4 in the morning, like they do sometimes?
I mean, what I suggest, Yasser, he oversees DC now. If these kind of issues come up, or with Rhode Island,
I will give
this
you-
is the
I
guy
will
to
give
call.
my business
So
card.
one of the things that we've discussed on the phone, and we'll get to you a couple more questions, is entering into a voluntary agreement with the ANC that covers these kind of issues. Trash, security, chaining up the chairs. I know, somebody could probably sit on them, but that's not unlike what Mandu, Altastrada, every other establishment on K Street does.
Sign on, customers only.
Right, silos, that's a whole nother problem we'll talk about in a little while. So that is something that we're gonna be talking about, and we will take it back up again. So just rest assured on that front. Yes,
I
Miss,
just wanted to clarify, so you mentioned you're not selling any alcohol. Are you selling tobacco or lottery tickets? And then is this, you're agreeing to sign this space and you will never apply for those permits?
Well, we are going to sell tobacco products and we are selling lottery. At this current moment, we are not planning to sell alcohol, but if we do, we'll be back here in front of you guys to discuss that.
I hope you don't give permission for that. Thank you very much.
Can we oppose all 3?
no, not the lotto or the tobacco, just the alcohol license. Yes,
And I apologize because I've not been to any of these meetings. What is
Welcome.
the drive by the committee to want
a public space from, you know, a new type of 7-Eleven? Like, what does this do to make our community better?
Well, the zoning and the master plan for the Mount Vernon Triangle encourages outdoor seating. The idea of the whole
From restaurants?
from restaurants,
This
yes,
is not-
which this is obviously straddling the regs. But that's the encouragement. I mean, we're looking for a robust kind of market area that people can, you know, have outdoor seating. Obviously, you know, 7-Eleven probably wasn't the retailer we were all hoping for, but you know, that's not up to us. You know, I mean, if people initially asked me what can we do, I said well, you can buy the building, you know, but that's not where we're at. So the real question here, the real question tonight is what can we do to work with this group to make this something that we can be proud of, that we can be happy with in our community. And I've been comfortable with these discussions. I'm happy that they're willing to enter into a voluntary agreement, but a lot of these other concerns we're talking about are stuff that is going to fall on our shoulders, on MPD's shoulders, on the SID's shoulders. They're going to look out for their business. They're certainly going to want to have an outdoor seating that's not going to be littered with people that will harass women or be a blight to our community, because that's certainly bad for business. So I think our task now is to work with 7-Eleven and come up with an agreement that represents a lot of what we were talking about today. Yes?
I think the reason why we're all so hesitant is because the benchmark of what a 7-Eleven is in an urban neighborhood is not great, as some examples have already been risen. I was wondering if there was an opportunity for, as you said, 7-Eleven is coming regardless of what we all feel about it. Can they come in and prove that they're good neighbors and that there isn't an issue without the seating, and then we take this up again after a year, 18 months, or what have you?
Probably not. They're going to apply for their seating. We kind of identified a problem early on that they recognized and they're working through. Their hearing, I believe, is on the 25th of July. Yeah, and we can go testify to your concerns. I certainly will tweet and publicize it. I know that there was an independent objection outside of the ANCs. But in all likelihood, you know, just like any other establishment, they might get some degree of outdoor seating whether we like it or not.
Is the patio furniture really pulled in after 11 o'clock?
I think that's one thing we're still discussing. We had talked about locking it up, and so we're still discussing it.
I mean, my concern is when the cloakroom closes at 2 o'clock and the bachelor party with 7 drunk fraternity brothers come out, they say, guess what, we're hungry. Well, Sol is closed and Chipotle's closed. Oh, we got Taco Bell over here and stuff like that. So we face that. You know, I mean, if you are Bubba Whisper, you know, Fifth Street's gonna get nailed in City Vista there, and that's my major concern. The sound level will be.
That's the rear of 555 is the one that.
Yeah, they'll all be. I mean, that's, you know, you got 5 drunken guys there, stuff like that, and they have their tacos. Instead of dispersing, they now have a place they can spend another 2 hours for, and they can spend it on outside also.
And what happened with the 10 o'clock ornament in the city?
Sorry?
What
The noise
supposed to be
ordinance,
10 o'clock, you're not allowed to be too loud anymore. So now we go 11 and 2 and 3 in the morning.
Something different.
Well, I mean,
24/7.
one of the parts of the agreement will be that they close everything up. They don't have any outdoor seating at 11 o'clock, just
So
like
what
everybody
happened
else.
with the 10 o'clock supposed to be?
Sorry?
It's supposed to be 10 o'clock legally. When you're reading the DC things.
Oh,
when you
yeah,
go
for
to
the
police
noise
van,
ordinances, yeah.
Noise ordinance, I'm
Mhm.
sorry, I didn't have that properly. It's 7 AM and by 10 PM, so on
Yeah.
and so forth, okay?
Yeah.
So what happened with that?
Well, I mean, that doesn't change. I mean, if that's causing a
They
ruckus,
open
certainly you
until
call the
11,
police.
so I call 911, I take a full line away for somebody who needs an ambulance or getting murdered or raped or whatever, call because they are loud, because it's front of my window.
Well,
I mean,
you call
who do I
311 for
call?
the building as
Ghostbusters?
well.
Who do I call? If they
I mean, I
don't-
think at this point, isn't it just 911? Yeah,
Yeah,
you know, call the
police.
police, yeah.
If there's something horrible,
Yeah.
then call the
Shut down
police.
Apple on the weekend.
You call
Cops did not
Oh,
shut
yeah,
down.
yeah, we'll talk about that in a little while. We're kind of, yeah, we're running a little, I'm gonna take 2 more questions, Miss.
Well, I was just wondering, so to the point about you know, restaurants being encouraged to have outdoor spacing and all the concern around trash, and it sounds, I mean, I get that it's higher staffed than a regular 7-Eleven, but it still sounds pretty low for how large the operation is going to be. Is it possible to ask that there be staff that is actually managing the cleanliness of that area and ensuring that the 7-Eleven trash is not spilling over to the surroundings and is being left on the tables and that they're actually being clean?
One of the main reasons that we wanted to run this corporate is that way we don't leave it up to anyone to really determine how we're gonna run this operation, and because this is our future, this is how we want 7-Eleven stores to look like, we're gonna invest everything that's needed to make sure you come back and say we need more stores like this.
Sure.
Yes, it's last question.
Is operating around the clock a matter of right for them, or is it subject to some kind of regulation? Like, I mean, when Carla was talking about they will stay open 24 hours, is that allowed a matter of right part of zoning, or?
Yeah, I believe so. I can't think of the zoning regulation I cited in my letter in my protest. You know, that, whether that can be applied or not, because it is clearly, they have some degree of a restaurant. I don't think I've ever seen anything that would stop it from being a 24-hour establishment.
Alex, have they engaged with Officer Toby Green, our Mount Vernon Triangle police officer?
I don't believe so, but
That'd be such a good idea.
But I think, yeah, absolutely.
But we definitely, if you send me his information, we'll.
Because he knows what's happening, the good, the bad, the ugly, we can
Absolutely.
tell you what's what.
All right, well, listen, thank you all. I know most of you came here for this. I'm sorry we're calling it, you know, right now because we have a lot more to get to on the agenda. Please continue to send me and any of your representatives up here your concerns. I'm going to work with the commission as well as Commissioner Padro, who's clearly an expert on this subject, on a voluntary agreement. I'm trying to make this as good a fit as possible for our community.
We appreciate that.
Thank you. All right, thank you all for coming. Bree, I'll be in touch.
Yeah,
Thank you,
so
guys.
much.
Next we gotta go back to Verizon.
Thank you, yes.
Excellent.
Thank you very much for accommodating us. I'm Mario Acosta-Veres. I'm with Verizon, and my colleague here is Brian Stover. So I'd like to thank the commissioners for allowing us to come back to your ANC meeting and be able to go into a little bit more detail about our plans to deploy small cells technology in the district, which is the technology that we have built and that is part of the infrastructure needed to be able to bring 5G to the city. So we're going to go into a little bit more detail today than in the meeting that I attended last May. It was more general today. We're going to just focus a little bit more on the actual process of the deployment of these small cells, what they do, what they don't do, and focus on some of the questions that you have about what will happen in the neighborhoods when we are in that process to help you get a better understanding of the actual benefits of this technology and why Verizon is investing significant of our resources to build this network. But before we go there, I just want to mention something that I think it certainly helps frame people's understanding of what 5G is and what small cells are and why they are needed. So when I look around the room and I see everyone's using your smartphones or your cell phones, that tells us that we require or we rely on that particular technology for pretty much everything that we do today. Whether it is normal daily use or actually emergencies that may happen, whether it is related to hospitals or contacting a first responder or contacting the police or many other emergency situations. But sometimes we have to think about how actually we got to this point where we have this amazing technology available. So many years ago, when we can only use a cell phone for just phone calls, that was 1G. When later, we were able to use phones for text messages, that was 2G. Well, later we were able to use smartphones and actually surf the internet that was enabled by 3G technology. Today, we have a 4G technology that allows to video stream and use that technology for other purposes. What 5G will do is will improve these existing communication infrastructures and devices to better meet the increasing demand that we are facing in other communities that we serve, when we have to ensure that residents, businesses, institutions such as government or non-government, hospitals and others are meeting the demands of communication and infrastructure from their customers so they can better serve and improve that communication. 5G will be able to enable cities like DC that are high density cities to provide better service and improve communication services to all communities that we serve. And things like, if you have heard probably out there, such as smart cities and smart homes, even something called self-driving cars, all of those amazing things, all that is enabled by the technology called 5G. And the needed infrastructure to get to that place is what we call small cells, that is going to be deployed in the neighborhoods, New Jersey Avenue, in the ones that are around Rhode Island, around Shaw, in the whole area that is served not only by this ANC but across the district. So I wanted to mention that because I think it's important for us to understand that framework and why Verizon is investing so much of our resources to make DC what we call a smart city and make 5G in our city a reality. So I'm gonna, we brought some materials for you, some handouts that you can take with you that will answer a lot of your questions about not only what the technology does, but whether the technology is safe or not, what it does in the communities, how you develop it, how you implement it. And all of those things will give you a lot of information today that you can take with you and read it at home. But my colleague here, Brian, is certainly an expert on this technology and how it really works. And I'd like to introduce him to give us a brief presentation and the visuals about what you will see in the neighborhood. Thank you, Brian.
Thanks, Mario. So hi, my name is Brian Stover. I'm a real estate manager for Verizon Wireless for the Washington-Baltimore network. I've been here with Verizon for the past 20